In Georgia, divorces can be fault-based or no-fault-based. The no-fault-based is your irreconcilable differences divorce, and that just means that the marriage didn't work out for whatever reason. The parties grew apart, or they can't get along, they have different visions for their future, and they want to separate. For fault-based divorces, those can be issues such as cruelty, adultery, but of course, the fault-based divorces, you usually have to go to trial and prove the facts to get a fault-based divorce, which can be more expensive. So in the end, most couples opt for no-fault divorces. So to get a divorce in Georgia, there is a residency requirement of 6 months of the person filing for divorce. So you had to have lived in the state of Georgia before you can be the plaintiff and file your case. For the defendant, there is no residency requirement, but of course there are personal jurisdiction and venue issues that we have to make sure that the defendant meets before you file your divorce in Georgia. So the divorce process in Georgia can be a bit lengthy. However, every case, whether it is settled or goes to trial, has to go through the same basic steps. The first step is to gather your information and your documentation. You prepare your pleadings, which are filed with the court. There is a period of discovery where you gather information that you need either to settle your case or to go to trial if necessary. There are some cases where the divorce is simple enough that discovery is not necessary. Some cases require mediation. That's an attempt to settle the case amicably between the parties, which is usually better than going to trial, where the result is no longer in your hands. And then finally, we have trial, if there was no settlement reached. At that point, you get your final order or divorce decree, and your divorce is final. There are two ways to get divorced in Georgia, or two forms. One is a contested divorce, and that essentially means that the parties cannot see eye to eye and they cannot resolve their case on their own. And the other is an uncontested divorce, where the parties can resolve all of the issues in a divorce amicably and do not have to go to trial for a judge to decide the issues. A lot of cases may start contested and eventually settle and become uncontested in the end and resolve in a settlement agreement, and vice versa. Sometimes we have cases that start as uncontested, and as the parties are talking and working through the issues, they realize that there is a sticking point that they just can't resolve, and at that point it becomes a contested divorce. As far as timeline, there is a huge difference when we're talking about contested divorces and uncontested divorce. For an uncontested divorce, we can get a divorce finalized in as little as 2 months. In Georgia, there is a mandatory wait-in period before a judge can send a divorce decree of 30 days. So at a minimum, if everything went perfectly well, you could be technically divorced in 30 days, but it normally requires about 2 months due to the paperwork and of course the judge's calendar. As far as a contested divorce, some contested divorces can range as long as 6 months and last for years. So it is always in everyone's best interest to resolve as many issues as possible. If you have any questions at all about divorce or would like to speak to an attorney about it, just give us a call for a consultation.